Hello, you're listening to the Latinx Press Podcast. I'm Henry Barajas, back with another episode. I am interviewing Matthew Rosenberg. We're promoting his new series, If Destruction Be Our Lot. It will be in comic shops May 6th. I've known Matt since 2018. Um, there was a year where I saw him at multiple comic book conventions, and through mutual friends, we had a lot of dinners together and spent some time all around different parts of the world. And he's always been someone who's um, supportive and kind with his time. So he has a new series coming out through Image Comics, If Destruction Be Our Lot. It's a really cool sci-fi series. Um, and he has yet to put out a bad book, in my opinion. And really excited for this new series. We talk about his new comic. We talk about him writing Spawn. We talk about Comics Pro and how interesting that crowd can be and how fun and important comic book retailers are. And we also talk about Ken Griffey Jr.'s video game and some fun around that. I try to keep these conversations under an hour, but sometimes we end up talking and we end up having a good time. So I hope that bleeds through the show and um, and gives people something fun to listen to during these awesome times where nothing bad is happening and we all are doing our best to stay positive when the world can or where it seems like it's crumbling. But we try to have these moments of joy and catch up with our friends. I was actually telling someone why I started doing this podcast, and again, because I've had a history of having multiple podcasts, and I used to do one for my old Substack, and then I killed that, but brought my newsletter to Button Down, which has been very helpful and really very thankful that folks are reading and responding and pre-ordering stuff, whether it be my work or my friend's work. But I was finishing up Death to Pachuco, one of the issues, and unfortunately, I haven't reskilled and learned Clip Studio Art, so I'm still using Adobe software. And I exported a PDF, and there was a little prompt that said, "Do you want to make a podcast out of this?" And it offered to make a fake podcast episode using AI, and I just got really offended that the people are listening to like AI podcasts now, and so I know how to do this, and I can round up some people and have some conversations, and so I'm trying to do this again. I used to have a radio show back in Tucson, Arizona, and I miss spinning music and I miss talking to people and having conversations. So this is why I'm doing it again. Press Podcast is back again because AI because I'm just here to like do everything I can to where like only we're talking to humans, we're making stuff by humans, and it's just a real fu to AI. Um, but yeah, I hope you enjoy our conversation. I do have to do some business and talk about the stuff I'm doing. Death to Pachuco comes out tomorrow, April 14th, and on through bookstores and various other all the rest of the mass market options that are out there. But the biggest one is Amazon. Unfortunately, the elephant in the room has sucked up a lot of the air, and a lot of people get stuff through Amazon. I don't want to shame you if you're one of them, but I'm always someone who promotes comic shops and bookstores and libraries first. So in that vein, I have a book release party on. Well, let's do this in chronological order. So I got really lucky and I got invited to the Los Angeles Times Festival of Books on April 18th. So I'll be there from at 10 a.m. Um, it's a real honor, honestly, because I think like when you're in publishing, you have certain goals that you set yourself for that you set for yourself, and one of them is doing the book festival. I will be there on. It starts at 10:30. Tickets are for sale. They're like $8. They're not much, but you got to have a ticket to attend these things, and they sell out. It's at the Albert and Dana Broccoli Theater at University of Southern California. It is ticketed, but the I will be sitting. I'm going to do my best to sit next to Mimi Pan, and the moderator is Angie Wang, who invited me. So big thanks to Angie and Mysterious Galaxy Books, a bookstore that has supported me in the past. They've ordered Death to Pachuco, and they've also ordered my cocktail book that I wrote, which might be the best reviewed book I've ever written. That was it's called the '90s Ultimate '90s Playlist. It's a cocktail book where I had to write the like funny anecdotes for every drink that was made by Cassandra, who's awesome. So yeah, I'll be at the LA Times Festival of Books, and then during the evening I will be at the um, Halloween double feature. It's like a VHS night where they're going to be screening Creepshow. I'll be there talking at the Brewyard Beer Company in Glendale from 5 to 11. I'll have a table, and I'll be talking about Creepshow. I got to write Creepshow for the first volume that came out through Skybound. And then on April 24th, I'll be at the Last Bookstore Studio City. We're having the big book release party for Death to Pachuco, then from 7 to 9. I'm really excited for that one. They're a really awesome bookstore that supports me. It's in my neighborhood. So I feel very lucky that I always tell people when you're coming up in comics and you're trying to find an audience, always go to like the closest bookstores and libraries and places that engage with reading. So, I will also be doing on May 2nd Free Comic Book Day at Studio City, at the Studio City Ranch. Karina Benko is going to be there, where I'm also inviting other friends. So, a lot going on this next month. Every weekend is pretty much booked with something promoting Death to Pachuco, and it will be like that for the foreseeable future. So, if you don't see me at one of these in LA, definitely be doing more stuff in the future. But without further ado, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share with your friends my conversation with Matthew Rosenberg. Hey, Matthew.
Oh, hi.
Do I have to call you Spawn writer Matthew Rosenberg now, or
You don't have to.
what
You
would
can
you
you
prefer?
can. I'll leave if you don't, but it's your call. I mean, it's your
All
podcast.
right, all right. It is my podcast and my rules. So,
Yeah.
congratulations on writing Spawn.
Thank you. Uh, yeah, it's
Is
a
that?
it's a weird time for me.
I mean, what are you the second writer to only
No, no, there's been a bunch.
uh,
The yeah, Todd is very
third?
very yeah, there's been a bunch. There's another. No, what's funny, the funny statistic about me writing Spawn, and someone's gonna write it and be like, this isn't true, but I'm pretty sure it is that I am the third ever writer to have written both Spawn and Wildcats, and
Oh,
the other two are Alan Moore and Grant Morrison.
wow.
Yeah. So something cosmically is broken.
I
Something has
mean,
gone horribly wrong.
I mean, I think it's a marathon.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, the longer you can withstand the blows
Sure.
that this industry will give you,
Yeah, eventually you become Alan Moore.
eventually you become Alan Moore. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I mean, I think it's really cool that you get to take over something that like I feel like, I mean, I assume we're similar in age.
Sure.
And Spawn was like
Yeah.
a comic that you just ended up having somehow,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and the toys I ended up like having
I
a
I
bunch of those.
I mean, I know how I had the comic because I was a huge fan of Todd's, and so I was desperate to get the comic when it was coming out. The toys is funny because I did have a lot of Spawn toys. I do have them. I still have them. And it was just I didn't buy toys. And I was just like, these are cool. I have to have these. Like he just had this thing where I was like, I wasn't buying action figure. Like I stopped buying toys when I was a little kid, and then I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, I need this. I need this Cygor figure. I need this medieval Spawn figure. I just needed them, and so I
yeah.
I have a bunch of them.
I had a bunch too, and also the movie
Sure,
comes out,
sure.
and
Saw the movie in theaters.
um,
Loved it.
I remember seeing it at home
Hmm.
because my mom is a huge fan of Emilio Estevez and Martin Sheen and Charlie Sheen,
Hmm.
and the fact that Martin Sheen was in it
Hmm.
was enough for her to like go, oh, okay, we'll watch this like superhero thing
Sure.
Henry knows about,
Yeah.
and it's like not like any kind of superhero movie at that time,
Oh
and
yeah.
probably still like
Yeah.
now is it's still pretty singular
Yeah. Yeah.
in its
And
yeah.
it also probably means that you got to watch Young Guns, which is great.
Oh yeah, it was filmed in my hometown. Well, parts of it
Oh,
were.
really? That's awesome.
Yeah, so Tucson is near the only amusement park in Tucson is a place called Old Tucson.
All right. Good job, everybody. Is it?
And it's like Old West.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's
So like
awesome.
John Wayne, uh, quick, quick in the quick in the draw, quick
Quick,
in the dead.
Quick and the Dead.
Sam Raimi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that movie was filmed there as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So a
awesome.
lot of history. Major League. Charlie Sheen was did a lot of uh, baseball in Tucson for Major League, so
Love
he
that.
has a weird connection. And I'm sure the local strip clubs were also thankful for any time he was
Sure. Anytime
in town.
Charlie comes to town, it's like it's Christmas come early. Um.
Where are the tortas winning? That's I'm sure what
Sure.
he was saying.
Sure. But yes, yeah, Spawn has a funny someone yesterday. I was talking to someone yesterday, and they were like, "I always played as Spawn in Soul Calibur," and I was like, "Oh yeah, I did too. That was my character. That's what I fought as in Soul Calibur."
You
So,
have to respect the fallen in Soul Calibur for sure.
that's true. It's big. He had a big
Um,
axe.
yeah, like how do you even like? I mean, I'm sorry we're going so Spawn heavy, which I
No,
can
we can do whatever.
anticipate too.
Well,
Um, I I've heard that Todd has a process, and the process is you get to write Spawn, and then he like comes in and does his thing. Is that
We're,
was that something you had to like any boundaries you had to establish? Like, hey, if I'm writing Spawn, I'm writing Spawn.
well, we're still early days in actually like making the stuff. We've been building, but actually the day to day. So I think stuff is still being figured out. But um, no, I don't set boundaries with Todd. It's his book. It's his company. Like it's
Right. No,
literally yeah, yeah.
maybe boundaries is the wrong
No,
word,
no,
but I think like
I
you
I
know,
I think the big version of that. I mean, he's very hands on, which I really appreciate because it's writing Spider-Man and being able to ask Stanley and Steve Ditko like, well, what is this? Like, how does this work? What do you think of this? It's
yeah,
like it's amazing. Like um going right to the source is great. But I think the big thing that's been sort of um amazing for me and kind of great is that when I started pitching on the book, when Todd reached out to me and asked me to pitch on the book, and I sent him stuff, and he didn't like the first thing I did sent, and his note on it was one of the best notes I've ever gotten, which was he said, "You're writing the book the way I'd write the book. You're trying to write like me." And he said, "If I wanted me writing the book, I'd just write it, keep writing it." And that to me, like that is what you want every editor to say is like, I hired you to do you, not to do an impression of
yeah,
someone else. And so I've been given a lot of leeway to just do what I think should be. And I'm trying to honor everything that's come before. And it's definitely a love letter to the character and the universe because I do love them. but we're going some different places, and Todd has been really enthusiastic about that, and very, he's there to answer questions and look everything over, and we'll see where the book goes, and if people dig it, uh, we'll see how long I can last.
And in true like Todd fashion, we get an announcement super early. Usually, you would get something like this when there's like a book to pre-order,
Mhm.
and like, so when do you take over?
My first issue's out in a few weeks.
Oh, so why is what like you're saying you're in the super early stages? I didn't realize you've
Um,
already done a lot of work.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the book moved quick. Uh,
Damn,
T-
that's quick.
Todd is yeah. The we were announced after the books were solicited.
Oh, okay.
They went and changed the solicits. The solicits were
Oh,
dummy solicits. Um,
oh, okay.
so that we could
Wow.
we could swap in me, um, and the art teams, Thomas now,
Wow. Oh, so
Thomas
it was a
Natchlick on King Spawn,
damn.
and Steven Segovia on Spawn. So
So how
yeah,
do you keep that a secret? Like, do you go to the grocery store and just tell normal people you're doing it, or?
well, what's funny is that the guy at my I live across the street from a grocery store, so I go in there all the time, and the guy who works at the grocery store, the cashier who I see all the time, is actually a big comics guy.
Oh,
So
wow.
no, I can't go in and talk about Spawn. Um, the
Does he have a CGC witness when you're in there and just, hey, here's your groceries. Can you please sign this
what's
for me?
funny is that I don't think he knows who I am, but I
Oh,
see him talking about comic stuff and into comic stuff,
I love it when that happens.
and he's talked to my partner. He talked to her about comics because she was wearing a
Oh,
comics
wow.
T-shirt, and he lit up and was so excited. And
That's
uh,
my favorite.
yeah, so I'm always weighing, like, I don't know. Is it weird to
Oh.
introduce myself? Like, I don't.
What if he hates your stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I
You
wouldn't
know?
want to be like, oh, the guy who ruined Wildcats for me, or the guy who made me hate the Punisher. I have to see him 4 days a week. Like, that sucks. So it's
Yeah,
better to
that
just be
sucks.
like, yeah, better that I can just, like, he's wearing a you know Thor T-shirt, and I can be like, that's a cool shirt, man, and that's it.
Right.
That's all
Right.
that's all he needs. We talk about other stuff, so it's fine.
Oh, that's cool.
But as to how to keep it a secret, yeah, man, that's it's been one I've been sitting on for a while, and I had more than a few people kind of annoyed at me when they were like, when the announcement came out, who were like, how did you not tell me this?
Oh, wow.
I have a very tight, small circle of people I trust who um I went to, not to get it off my chest, but to bounce ideas off people. There's a few
Yeah.
other creators who I'm like, I just need to know if this sounds stupid, or if this sucks. So there was, I think 4 or 5 people that I went to with that stuff. And then, um,
4 or 5. That's a lot of people.
I guess, but it's the same group of people who comes to me with stuff. So it's like
Right.
we go back and forth. So there's sort of a trust game, but it's Tyler Boss, who I make a lot of books with, and I we talk about everything we work on all the time. Um,
Yeah. No, I loved, and I've said this to you in person, but I loved your podcast, like multi episode podcast you guys did.
oh,
And it like, I've seen you two in person
sure.
and see you two like, interact, but to hear you both, have such a public conversation about like how you two deal with each other was
Hmm.
was very funny.
We're a very weird couple. I I we had to explain to our respective partners, um, because you know people in relationships get in fights and they bicker, and that's just what being married is, or being in a long term
A
relationship is.
human, yeah.
Yeah, just being a human. And Tyler and I kind of don't, but we are, like, in a relationship, and so there's a sort of thing where sometimes, like, people will be like, you guys are like the most loving, healthy relationship I've ever seen. And it's I think we are this sort of ideal married couple, but we're not married.
Yeah.
um we're creatively
No.
married.
Are you two working on anything new together?
We are, yes. Well, we're finishing What's the First Place from Here, which has been slowed down by a ton of life stuff. Tyler, and Courtney, his wonderful wife, had a little baby.
Yeah.
um and
Congratulations to them. I'm sure they're listening.
I'm sure they are. I mean, I was just literally on the phone with Tyler 6 minutes ago, and he had a screaming baby in his lap. So I'm sure he's coming in for podcast time.
Oh, he's yeah. You got to tune it out
Yeah,
somehow.
yeah, 100%. And so we're finishing What's the First Place from here. We've got a couple issues done. We just want to like have it all done before we release it, so it's not on a weird schedule because both of us are so busy that like
Yeah.
doing it doing it sporadically is the easiest way for us to do it, but the worst way to release something. So we're just wrapping it up as once. And then we're co-writing a book that we're getting. We were actually on the phone going over the art for that Tyler's not drawing. We're co-writing it and someone else is drawing it. And then we're discussing our next book after Furthest Place and what that's going to be.
Wow, that's exciting. I mean, have been keeping up with your both of your work since the get go, and
Sure.
I really like how you both really and what I and this goes to you and him, but you both write comics in a way that's respectful to the medium and not a um I think a lot of people either really are into one part of it, which is the writing
Mm-hmm.
or the art, and
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes those two things don't meet.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think you two meet in a way that I would wish I could be a fly on the wall to see how both of you make
Oh,
these kinds of things.
that's
I think there's, especially when you collect your books, it's not. I mean, I don't know. I think it gels really well together.
thanks. That's a very uh, for me that's a very high compliment. That is something that I think I and Tyler both pride ourselves on is trying to make things that are taking full advantage of the medium and specific to the medium. We are comics people by nature, and I think we've both done other things. We've both written prose. We've both now had dipped our toes in film stuff, and it just becomes more and more clear every year that I'm like, no, I'm just a comics guy. Like that's just what I am. I love prose. I love TV. I love film. I love poetry. Um, I love nonfiction. The I'm a comics person. So it's it.
We're it, the other one. I mean, I like. I really love the medium. I really when I
Sure.
make comics, I really try to respect
Yeah.
the artifact as much as I can. Where did that for you start to click?
That I'm a comics person,
No,
or that
like when you like how do you like because you can't teach what I mean. Maybe you can, but I think a lot of this is really just kind of studying comics and
sure.
really like looking at it in a way that's like that is a little different than maybe what other people or what other
Yeah.
artists might be
I I
trying to do with it.
I think in some ways, like um I've talked about this elements of this before, but I grew up. I'm from a very writing family. Both my parents are writers and editors. My brother's a writer. My uncle's a writer. Um, my sister in law is a writer. So, but growing up, my family taught me from a writing point of view and an editing point of view, sort of how to approach certain elements of making things, of art and story and things, narrative and things like that, and so that stuff was kind of ingrained, but also in that I did not come up from a family that was super comics oriented. Like they were fine with comics. My dad read comics when he was a kid. My mom read a little bit of comics when she was a kid. My brother definitely read comics, but was not, a diehard comics person. And so I think some of that is me seeing and taking and internalizing the things my parents taught me and my family taught me about craft and process, and just like, when I was 12, my dad making me watch Citizen Kane or On the Waterfront or The Horse's Mouth or Apocalypse Now, and talking to me about like why things work, what's good in them, what's not good in them, like why we care about things, how they're using the medium. And so like those lessons were very much drilled into my head, and then I was into this thing that they sort of looked down on. And so I think I spent a lot of time as a kid looking for those things, looking for the craft and looking for the art in comics that really was special and was magical, and trying to figure out why I love it so that I could convey that and be like, you know, I think this has as much value as the greatest film. I think this has as much value as the greatest novel. And so yeah, I think from a very young age I was hyper focused on studying the craft of it, even though I wasn't trying to make it. I was just trying to
Right.
prove that it had merit to myself and to my family, I think.
Wow. When I was a kid, my family would buy boxes of comics in the hopes that one of them would be worth a lot of money.
Sure.
They were
And we're
caught up in the spec. They were like early speculators, thanks to the PBS
uh-huh.
roadshow.
Uh-huh. And were
Um,
they? Did you get a lot of did you ever
no,
hit?
we got nothing. There was not a single like I think maybe one comic was worth like at the time like $10. You know what I mean? Like a comic that was like a buck or two
Yeah, yeah.
bucks. That would have been the most expensive
Hmm.
comic, but it was never like a Superman,
Yeah.
Action Comics or something.
Sure.
Um, so it was, but I come from like a borderline illiterate family
Hmm.
where they did love movies.
Sure.
They didn't read, but they really liked cinema in a weird way. So I was left with boxes of comics and like magazine. They would buy new magazine, like Wizard magazines, because
Uh-huh.
there'd be a price guide in the back.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
I'd be able to like price out the comics for them, and they didn't know I would read them.
Uh-huh.
So that's how I got
Lowering the value as you did, but yeah. That's amazing.
you sound like my father right
Yeah,
now.
sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up, but that's definitely not what you were supposed to be doing. That's amazing. That's amazing, like origin story. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I we used to sell on the weekends at the swap meet
Oh, that's awesome.
where I would have a table and I would sell like toys and stuff. So I've always been tabling in some
No,
fashion.
yeah, it's very very ingrained in you. It's very I will say this, of all the elements of making comics, tabling and doing cons and signings is the one thing that I never took to. It never clicked with me.
Well,
I
I mean, I
do
was
it,
listening.
but
Yeah, I was listening to you last night on Word Balloon. Shout out to John Suntress.
hi John.
I love the guy with all my heart.
Sure, of course.
Um, and you had mentioned that you have traveled with bands and
Hmm.
you have done the like you have traveled where
Yeah.
I think that's like for early folks maybe, or unless you're just being flown places, the traveling
Uh,
really sucks.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, when I came up in trying to make cons and I was self publishing and doing web comics and stuff. My buddy Frank Barberi, who was I knew from music, I knew from punk rock. He played in bands and his brother was in a band who I was friends with, and that's how I met him. And he was trying to make books, and we were like we were a punk rock band. We would get in his car and drive to C2E2 because we couldn't afford flights, and we would
Yeah.
do a 14-hour drive to Chicago and then hit up someone to sleep on their couch, and it would be clear on the other side of town. So we'd be like
Oh yeah.
taking the L all the way across every day with all our stuff and back, and like
Oof.
we would drive.
That's me in New York Comic Con
Yeah, yeah,
now.
sure, yeah. I mean, look, I it was a very long time of that. It was. I have a lot of the folks I came up with. I have a real bond with, like Ed Brisson and Brian Level and Michael Walsh and Frank and people like that, because we were doing 6 or 8 of us in a hotel when we were like,
Yeah.
that's how we can afford to do a con, is that we can do 8 people. All those guys still tease me because from my tour days, I have a hack that I like, which is that I find a desk and I sleep under the desk and I build a little tent so that I can stay up. And so I would get to the room first, and everyone would assume you get there first to get the bed or get something, get chair cushions to lay out,
Or take a poop.
or take a
That's
poop.
my
Yeah,
yeah.
sure. But I no, I would get there and I would immediately grab a blanket and cover the desk and then be like, I'm under the desk. That's my space. And then I could work all night under the desk and not bother anyone with the light and the sound because I'm in there.
Wow.
But they all still make fun of me. That way you don't get stepped on in the night when someone has to go pee.
That's right.
No,
Yeah. I mean,
it's a little tour hack for you. Sleep under furniture.
Wow. So you're an East Coast guy,
Yeah, New York, born and raised.
and you're yet wearing a San Francisco Giants hat.
So it's complicated. It's a complicated thing.
I think we talked a little bit about this.
Y-
Actually,
y-
I you told me the whole
yeah,
story.
yeah. Uh,
We can keep it.
well, I could do it. I
I
could
mean,
do it. I
yeah,
mean, now if the fans want to
because
know,
I used to grow up. I grew up in Tucson where we had the spring training
sure, yeah,
where the Giants would come play,
of course, yeah.
and the White Sox and the Rockies. So I was, and my family were all Dodger
Uh
fans.
huh.
So I do
Not
remember
no
the
Diamondbacks
the very.
fans.
Oh, we did end up becoming Diamondbacks fans because
Okay.
um they would do like charity in my specifically in my
Oh,
neighborhood.
that's
It was a
awesome.
very poor
Hmm.
South Side uh, city of Tucson
Sure.
area. So they my parents liked that, and there was a big like marketing push for people to root for the Arizona Diamondbacks. So I was gleefully jumping up and down in 2001 when the Diamondbacks destroyed America again
Sure.
and beat the
As
Yankees.
they do. As they do. America had a bad year. The I grew up. I was not a baseball fan growing up, but I'm from a family of diehard Mets fans. Um, and I didn't want to root for the same team as my family because that seemed silly. And I liked a bunch of bands from San Francisco. So I was like, well, if I have to pick a baseball team, I'm gonna like the Giants. They're a former New York team. And my buddy, my best friend growing up, we used to, I had Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball for Nintendo 64, and we used to play it.
Same.
Yeah, great game. And we used to play it nonstop. And his family was from Boston originally, and so he would play as the Red Sox, and I would play as the Giants, and we would just play every chance we got. And that was a big part of my a few years of my childhood was every day playing Barry Bonds versus Pedro Martinez. Um, and a few years ago, he lives in LA. He's a screenwriter, and I go out and I stay with him a lot. And a few years ago, he mentioned that we were at a dinner, and he talked about how he used to beat me all the time at baseball, and neither of us ever actually played actual baseball because we're not those types of we were punk rock nerds, so we didn't do that. But we played the video game,
Sure. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I pointed out that he'd never beat me in baseball, and that was a fucking lie. And so he insisted it was true. I think he knew it wasn't true, but he is that kind of dude. And so I bought a Nintendo 64 that night and had it overnighted to his house with the game. And then I was like, we're doing this. And now whenever I go out to LA, we play. He has kids and he has little kids. And so I ruin his life by making him stay up till 4 or 5 in the morning playing baseball. And
And then he has to take them to
and then
school
he has
and
to
feed them in the morning
he has to be like, oh,
while
it's
you sleep
while I sleep till
like a baby
yeah, I sleep till
under their desk.
no, I have a like we've graduated from that. I have a futon. But the
A military cot.
yeah, I sleep under their futon. Um the but so this time when I went out there, I decided to upgrade it. We've been doing a thing. We started keeping track of who wins when I go out there because I go out there for a few weeks at a time, once or twice a year. And so we started keeping track. And so at first it was we were keeping track of we did a World Series, but the game's pretty quick. So then I decided we were going to do a thing called the World Series, which is a series of best of 7 World Series. And so you every World Series you win counts as a win in the World Series. And then we played enough that I won the World Series. So then we announced that World Series was the first game of the World Series. So that's a best of 7 where every
Of
World
seven.
Series win counts as a game and every World
Oh my
Series.
god.
So yeah, it's an infinitely expanding thing. And so as we were heading into, I was in LA last month for a few weeks, and I came out to really try and put some win columns in the World Series for myself. And I decided the way to do that would be to get a full Barry Bonds uniform. So I bought a jersey and the pants and the socks and the hat, a replica of full Barry Bonds uniform. And so he one night after the kids were in bed, I was in the room working, and he knocked on the door, said it's go time, and I came out in uniform. And I think everyone will be pleased to know that the Giants took it to the Red Sox.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I,
Wow.
I'm
That
up. I'm
is
up 2 World Series games to none.
wow.
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
yeah.
I I appreciate the level of commitment.
Thank you. Yeah. Eventually, the World Series is going to, evolve into just being the first game of the World Series. I don't know how many series that was, but eventually that happens. But for right now, we're very in the moment. We're very excited. I'm probably coming out back in July, and we'll take it up again.
Will that have anything to do with four kids walk into a bank coming out, or?
No, it'll have to do with San Diego Comic Con. The
Oh,
Four Kids movie, I believe, will be later than that. Will be
oh,
close to the
okay.
end of the year.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah,
Oh, so you're coming. Well, you got to come back for San Diego Comic Con. Just to touch back, you were here for Comics Bro
I was here for Comics
to
Pro.
promote your new series, If Destruction Be Our Lot.
Yes, I was there to do that and then talk about Spawn secretly in hushed secret meetings. But yes, if Destruction Be Our Lot, my brand new image book, which is I'm very excited about.
Um, Something I've noticed about you in
Uh-huh.
your in career, you like to put yourself at the bottom of the credits list.
I try to, yeah,
And this is, I think, the first time I've ever seen you
not.
on the top. Is that because your brother is involved?
No, it's because Image informed us that retailers were very confused by who was making the books.
Wow.
They were like, a bunch of people have said this isn't a real Matthew Rosenberg book. He's just like put his name on it, and the other person on top is the writer. And I'm like, no, it's the
Huh.
the artist. And they were like, they're not getting that. They think that this is like a side project book for you, that you're just like co-writing it with a buddy.
Every book of yours is just a side
Every
project
yeah, I've
book.
never done my real book. I haven't had a chance to make a real book yet. So no, I switched it.
That's
In the credits
wow.
page, it'll be reversed. It's not right now. There's a PDF where my name is on top, and in the actual credits page inside, it will be reversed. And Andy McDonald, our wonderful artist, his name will be on top where it belongs.
Yeah,
Um, both
I
both
get it. I have so
creatively and alphabetically.
I have taken a page from your book and definitely tried to include as many credit as many people as I can on the cover and the spines.
Yeah.
But I find it, I really appreciated that about you, and I guess
The funny thing is, if I had my way, I wouldn't put anyone's names on the cover.
yeah,
I,
no,
I,
same.
I
I think
wish.
the cover
I think
looks
the
nicer without
cover
it.
looks nicer without it, and I'm like, I
Yeah,
shouldn't be the selling point. Like, it's got great art and it's got a cool title, and it's that's all you need to know. But everyone always is like, no, you have to put credits on the cover. So we do.
I guess that's a good. I mean, I do want to talk about your comic, but I do want to talk about this specifically.
Mhm.
I feel like in comics specifically, there is a kind of, I don't know if culture is the right word, but people are buying a Matt Rosenberg book,
Mhm. I guess so.
whatever it's called.
Mhm.
It could be anything. But I think, like, as many books as you put out, I think one of the main focuses is the creator. And
Sure.
I saw you in the stacks. You pulled Lapham,
Mhm.
Stray Bullets. I will buy anything
Of course.
Lapham
Of course.
makes,
Yeah.
but Stray Bullets is the book
Mhm.
that I think we'll always like point at.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will always, because of that, always be a Lapham fan.
Yes. Yes. I don't say this to be dismissive of people who follow my career or whatever, or like care that I wrote a book. I just, in a utopian world, I would say all books stand on the merits of their idea, their premise, their art, their name. Like, the story. Like, who makes it doesn't matter to me at all. And so there are people like Lapham, or there's a ton of people that I'll buy everything they do, and obviously my life is made easier when their name is on the cover. But I do have this utopian dream that I'm like, yeah, just buy it. Like, I dream sometimes of just working in complete anonymity and just being like, I make things, I don't put my name on them, they come out.
Some would argue that you do.
Yeah, I mean, I try, but I'm bad at it. I try very hard. um
I mean, I do respect the fact of how much you push everyone involved. You're
oh, thanks.
always in interviews talking about your editors and people that are working on the book. So I am, that has definitely influenced me. I
Oh,
mean, a lot of I think creators, you and I
I
probably
yeah.
have
I mean, I always
look up to.
I will say, not to just blow smoke, but the on your book, the way you and Rachel like really uh have pushed each other and promoted each other, it's been really cool to see. Like
Thank you.
it seems like it's a team sport. We all know it's a team sport, but promoting it is often not. And
Oh yeah,
and you guys do a great job of being like, no, this is ours. Like, this is ours. It feels really
yeah.
cool. It feels really. I always get excited when I see either of you talking about the book. And
Thank you. Yeah, I think like both of us come from um, these backgrounds of like doing comics for a long time and just having like a hard time gaining traction
sure,
just because of different. I think it's been really hard for me specifically just because I think a lot of people don't see a lot of people like me making
hmm
comics, so they're like when they so I always like when I find that in someone else, I'm like, yeah, this we can really shoulder
sure.
this promoting responsibility in a way that is that no one feels slighted.
Yeah. I mean, I feel that too. I don't think there's a lot of straight white guys with beards in comics, so I feel like a
Yeah.
real burden there to carry that torch for people. I go up to little white kids on the street. I'm like, you can have this job.
Not
Probably
mine,
probably
not mine
today. Yeah.
specifically,
I mean,
but
maybe.
um if destruction be our lot,
Yes.
I love the humor
Oh,
in
thank you.
it. I think it's very funny in a it's very apropos of what's happening around us now.
hmm
I think I think everybody feels like they're on their own in their own way trying to get something out there
hmm
in a world where technology is kind of just like broken around
hmm
us and it's not as interesting as it used to be.
hmm
Like I think one of the funny, I think a lot of people have been saying like the internet used to be fun
Yeah.
and now it's not.
Yeah. I uh I had a moment. It's funny you mentioned that. I had a moment last night. I watch a lot of films and TV. I was watching Pluribus last night, and
Oh, love that
I
show.
love it. And I have a Roku. That's how I stream my television programs and my films. And it just doesn't work very well. Like, it's just
Yeah.
constantly like, you need to reboot, you need to reinstall this, and like, I had that moment of being like, this thing has one job, and it's just to like open an app that someone else made and play the thing that someone else made on it, and it's fucking horrible at it. And then I was like, also, explain this device to someone 50 years ago and be like, yeah, I have a little box that attaches to my TV that has 700,000 different movies on it. Like, and it does, and sometimes it takes almost a minute and a half to start, and people will just be like, kill me. Like, I don't understand why you're why this is a bad thing. And so, yeah, I think there is that funny, like, it's funny to be frustrated about technology in some ways, because we're very lucky to have so much of the technology we have, but also so much of it sucks. And so much of it is now being made to be broken soon. And so much of it is made now to, now so much of it is made to sort of not make people's lives better, but make certain people more money. And
Yeah.
that is very, like, the predatory nature of technology is creeping into our lives every single day. Of like, every website is asking you to pay them and has pop-ups and as annoying things, and every service has like weird fees attached, and everything is just more difficult than it needs to be. And like, you know, you see it on not to go back to my precious Roku, but like, streaming services that I've had for years added ads in when they didn't used to have them. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, this is the funniest thing you could do, to just like make it so that everyone hates you. Like, you built a thing that works, and then are like, we're actively making it broken for you. Um it's amazing. It's an amazing time to watch the sort of the capitalism eat everything around us.
Yeah. And that's obvious in the first issue I read.
Yeah. I mean, I think in a lot of ways, like, the book is about a lot of stuff. It's a It's an ongoing book, so it can't just be about one thing. I think
No.
maybe it can, but that's not how my brain works. But I think that the divide of technology, but also just like the thing we go back to is just the pervasive loneliness of this world these days. That it's just like whether it's the war on public spaces or just like that we're constantly being told like there's new ways to connect to people and build community and there's new ways to meet people and there's new ways to interact with people and all of them turn awful because all of them in the end you're the product in a system. And so like I just like the death of Twitter. Obviously Twitter's not fully dead, but it's in a weird zombie mode. And like that to me was such a wake up call of just like you told us this was going to be our public forum, like you told us this was going
Yeah.
to be a space where we could meet and congregate and share ideas, and then you made it into a place where like actually we're just here so that you can sell us weird fascistic Nazi shit. And
Yeah.
like that is just emblematic of all of this to me. And like how does that not make you lonely? Like people's only interactions with their friends is online, people's dating is online, people's sex life is online, their work is online. Like there's just barriers between people. And so and technology is a big part of that. Like technology made it so that we didn't have to interact with each other, and no one bothered to ask like, well, shouldn't we be interacting with each other? So
Speaking of interacting with each other, what's the process like between you and your brother making
we've never spoken, so it's
this?
um, the no. The process is very, very intense. He's my brother's a filmmaker by trade. He's a screenwriter and director, so he comes at this with a very different way of working. I'm very romantic and sort of very in love with the comics process of you start the train and then you build the tracks while you're on the train system that most comics operate under. I
Oof,
I think it's
yeah,
it's brutal and
that's
it's
yeah.
it creates ingenuity. It creates things. It creates problems, and it's worse for people's health. It's probably worse for the. I mean, it's definitely worse for the artistic outcome of the book in the end. But I like the challenge of it. I like the sport of it. Um, I sort of like I like a medium that has sort of limitations, and the time limitation is very fun to me. But for this book, partially because I had the means to do so, and partially because I think my brother is has one of the best heads for story of anyone I've ever met. But he thinks very long term. He thinks very detailed, and he's from a film background, or not even background. That's his foreground. But the expression of filmmakers is very true. You make a movie twice. You make it once when you shoot it, and you make it again when you edit it. And so saying to him like, the first issue is going to be done and locked, and then we will be working on the fourth issue. And if we want to change something, like people have already read the first issue, that kind of blew his mind in a not great way. And I thought this isn't conducive to getting the best work out of him, and I would like to flex different muscles. And so I just I look to people like Kirkman and Remender who take the time to make a book at the pace it needs to be made, and just build the whole thing often, or build years worth. And so me and my brother worked very slowly and methodically, while Andy tinkered and did stuff on the book. And then um, it allowed us. We're actually working on issue 11 of the book right now. Like Andy's drawn through 10 issues.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're on the third arc, but it means that we sometimes go back and really. It means that in the creative process, the whole time we've just constantly sort of reevaluated things and adjusted things, and in doing that, we've realized that the best process we have is that um, we sit down and come up with our outlines together, and then one of us will do the panels and hand it off, and the other will redo the panels and fine tune them, and then that person will do dialogue and hand it back. So it's not like he had an idea and I ran with it, or I gave him an idea. It's like our DNA and our fingerprints are on every single panel and every page.
Wow.
Not everything is passed to us, which is very slow. We couldn't do that in a regular, like,
No.
you couldn't be like make Superman comics the same way. It wouldn't be possible. It just takes too long.
No. I mean, Andy McDonald.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the depth of every page is incredible. The amount of different
Uh-huh.
robots and characters
Yeah.
looks like he either had the time of his life or was pulling his hair out.
I spent the first 4 months being like, hey man, at any point, um, you know, pull the ripcord and let me know if this is brutal for you. And it took him a long time to finally just like sit me down and be like, no, this is it. Like, this is what I want to be doing. This is like, I can really focus on like taking, if a page needs 2 days, I can give it 2 days if a page
Yeah.
needs that. And so I think, I don't want to speak for Andy, but he seems to really be having a blast. We talk all the time, and I'm having a blast working with him. He's a genius. And like, yeah, what you said about the depth and the world building and the character designs, like every issue is exponentially bigger and crazier. I think as he realized after the first issue, I think he realized that like, oh, we can really do something insane here. And it really just builds out in this way that I think people are going to be blown away. And the same is true for Francesco Segala, our colorist. Like he's just, the first issue looks great and the second issue looks much better, and the third issue I think is probably going to be one of the best looking comics of the year, like easily.
I don't doubt that. I mean, I appreciate that you credit the color assist.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Gloria.
and you got Haas
Yep,
doing letters,
always
who's I've got to work with, and an
unbelievable.
exceptional talent, and giving each robot or each piece of technology their own,
Yeah,
you know, box
voice. Yeah,
voice that matches the technology.
yeah, yeah.
I loved the bus scene where all the
Yeah,
the monitors are
we're
kind of
talking.
echoing each
Yeah,
other.
yeah. He Haas really. I mean, I say this all the time, but I think he's the best letterer in comics. I think he is. Um,
In the most demand for sure.
in the most demand, and I think it's very easy to see like for a long time in my career, and I've worked with a lot of amazing letterers, and I've been very blessed to have just amazing letterers on all my books, and on my creator-owned books, Jim Campbell and Thomas Maurer, and just great people. Um, I've always thought of, and this is somewhat on me, but I've always thought of lettering as like, I think of it like it's background, and I don't mean that in a dismissive way. I mean like it's a thing that is so crucial, but you aren't supposed to notice it. Like it's not
Yeah.
supposed to. It's like sound design, or like they even say like cinematography. Like you're not supposed to be aware of them. If you're aware of them, they're not doing their job correctly. And Haas sort of blew that idea out of the water for me, because I was like, oh, he's doing storytelling things with the lettering that are additive to the book, and he just expanded my understanding of what lettering could be in a book, and I'm forever grateful for that, and just always yeah, if I he is the first person I call whenever I have a book where I say, can you squeeze us in, can you make it work, because and I'm very fortunate that he has, and he's working on new stuff with me, and it's awesome.
That's exciting. I know it says Ash Can Press.
Hmm.
This is as much as a Tiny Onion.
Yeah, so
I see everybody, editors, designers.
editors, designers. So yeah, the Tiny Onion thing, people are always, Tiny Onion is a it's James Tynan's company. It's sort of it's a beast that takes many shapes, and in some ways it's an imprint, and some ways it's a production company and a services company. Um, we are not under the imprint of Tiny Onion. That's not something that's just, we're not.
Yeah, no.
But the
But you got the mechanics
the mechanics,
in the garage.
the James is a very good friend of mine, and his crew, he's assembled an amazing dream team of people, and some of them are um longtime friends of mine. Some of them are at James's company partially through my recommendation every once in a while. And so Steve Fox, who's one of my editors on this, like I've known Steve for years. I've known Steve for much of my career, and we've always wanted to work together. And actually, he was working on another book that never came together for me. And so I was always planning to go back to him and be like, I want you editing stuff. He's an amazing writer on his own, but he's also a great editor. And then when he was at Tiny Onion, I was like, well, I guess I lost him. And then Courtney Menard, who is the head of production at Tiny Onion, has done production on most of my books because she's a genius and amazing. And I've known her whatever, but I was also the witness at her wedding, because she's Tyler Boss's wife. So she's my longtime collaborators, my longtime creative partner's partner. And she is a person that everything we do, we sort of bounce off her, and she takes a look at and makes sure to fix all the things we fucked up. And so Courtney is like super crucial to everything I do.
Oh, for sure.
Um, and so when she went to Tiny Onion, I had to have the conversation with James where I was like, hey, a bunch of your staff, like, I want to use them. I want to continue to use them, like, on the side. And, credit to James, he was like, well, you have these long relationships and all these things. Like, we can talk about that. Like, we can make it work. And when talking to them, they were like, no, like, bring it into the company. It's just easier for us. It makes more sense. It's more organic that way. And so with that, I got, a bunch of other Tiny Onion perks. Eric Harburn, who's an editor I've always wanted to work with, is also editing our book. And Deanna, who does production at Tiny Onion under Courtney, or adjacent to Courtney, is helping out. So I'm really lucky to get a bonus thing and not just have bullied my friends into doing
No,
work
no,
on the
for
book
sure.
after their day job ends.
Yeah, no, I think when you have a team, I have a few people that I've been on every project
Yeah, yeah,
myself, and when you open up the indicia and see who's behind it,
yeah,
it's always
for sure.
you can tell when something's going to be good.
Yeah, and in the same way you talked about, like, a creator who you trust, like Steve Fox and Eric Harburn are editors on a large number of some of my favorite recent comics in recent years, in the past few years. So it's like, uh, editors' names don't often go on the cover, but if I hear they worked on a book, obviously I talk to them, so I know what they're working on a lot. But, like, when I find out there's something that I didn't know that they worked on, immediately my curiosity is piqued, because they are so good at what they do, and they are so thoughtful, and they're not going to put out something into the world that is kind of not without merit. And so they are instant buys for me on the bookshelf as well.
Yeah, I finally got to thank Nick Spencer. He was on Word Balloon,
Hmm.
and when I was like 18, 19 years old, all I wanted to do was make comics.
Hmm.
And I heard an interview he did with John, and he talked about how he had pitched to Oni, and they were like, "Hey, cool pitch, but you're too young to have anything to say."
Hmm.
And so he used that as a like opportunity to live what he called, to live a life
Hmm.
and have a failed political career
Hmm.
and all these things. So it was definitely words I needed to hear at the time
Hmm.
because I was young and I could have used some life
Sure.
before I started really getting into comics. So I finally got to thank him, and I see you have a special thanks for him
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
Nick is a good friend, and a good buddy. And I don't want to say this book wouldn't exist without Nick, because it's an idea that I think I sort of had to make, but it certainly wouldn't exist in this form, and it wouldn't be as good as it is without Nick. A lot of the funding of this book came from, um, the initial funding for the book came from Substack, from Nick's time at Substack, where he was giving grants to comic creators to make things. And um, and there's a huge group of creators, and it's, me and Kelly Thompson and Chip Zdarsky and Brian Bendis and Scott Snyder and James Tynan and Jeff Lemire and Nate Stevenson and Kari Randolph, and just like a huge group of Scotty Young, like a great group of people, all got sort of funding to just go make stuff. And that was Nick. And so my taking that being able to take the time to be like, let's take our time and pay people what they deserve to be paid. I mean, not really, but closer to what they deserve to be paid than the going rate in
Yeah,
comics. And uh, take the time to make the book exactly the way we want it to be and make every detail correct. Like that's Nick. So
I
yeah.
think a lot of people. I mean, I have this problem. People look at my Image comic
Hmm.
and Top Cow Productions comic and go, "Oh, that's a mainstream comic,"
Sure.
and it's like, no, I had to pay for
Yeah,
this.
yeah. I there's such a funny world where people are like, things aren't clearly defined as like what's an indie comic, what's a what's I see
Yeah,
people be like, what are indie comics you like, and just as much as I see people be like Jeff the Land Shark, and I'm like, that's not an indie comic. It's great, it's not an indie comic. But I see people be like, well, Image is not a Image is not an indie comic, and I'm like, Image is definitely an indie comic. And I had someone say to me like, well, Image is a corporation, and I was like, well, like that's your definition. Then like
yeah,
there's almost no indie comic. Like if I made a zine, it's not an indie comic. If I made it at Kinko's, if I hand drew it and handed it to you, it's made by a corporation. Like
yeah,
I'm incorporated. Like that's for legal reasons. Like that's not the deciding factor on what independent is. But it is a little blurry because of distribution channels or whatever. But like, yeah, Image Book, like, God bless Image. They are the greatest champions of independent art in any medium. I think, around. I think when you see an Image book, it is purely the voice of the people who made it, with no interference and no other money and no other interests involved. And yeah, I love Image, but I see people be like, well, Image is the number 3 company, so like it's not indie. And I'm just like, I don't really know what that means, man. Like I don't know. I don't know where we're drawing lines. That's fine. if it's
yeah.
if it's based on sales, then sure, it's
Sure,
fine.
sure. Well, it's coming out May 2026 this year in our Lord.
Yes.
Um, I know one thing I really respect about you is how much you value the comic book store and how a lot of series live and die. And I'm, thankfully, have had the benefit and the opposite of that, of like comic shops, really
Mhm.
going in
Sure.
on your corner. You have an incredible history of working with shops directly.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I worked in a shop for a couple years, here in New York, um, sort of to learn about them, to learn about the ecosystem, and it was a great experience. It was a great experience to see like why things are ordered, why people pick a book up off a shelf. I would just stand at the new release wall and ask people like, why did you pick that book up? Like, what about that book got you? Like, and just sort of study people and the way people interact with things, and that's very informative to me in my work. But yeah, I mean, other than a few very rare people, we are all here because of the grace of comic shop owners taking literally their own money to buy our books and being like, I think I can sell this. I think I can push this. And if it's Batman and Spider-Man, then like, yeah, they probably can. But anything else, it's people taking chances with their own money to they're trying. I mean, it's not altruistic. They're trying to make their own money, but it's very close to altruistic because there are surefire bets in comics. And I'm not one of them, and you're not one of them, and a lot of the books we love are not them. So like, there's a lot of risk and a lot of, so I try and do what I can to mitigate that risk. I try and do what I can to reward that risk, and I try and do what I can to just say thank you for taking the risk on me. And hopefully it pays off for people. And I know some shops who are, I we talked about, we saw each other at Comics Pro, which is a big retailer convention, conference. I always say convention, and it's more of a conference, I guess, if you want to be technical. And I had retailers come up and be like, "Man, I sold so much of your book, and I wanted to thank you." And I say, "No, thank you." And that means I sold so much of my book, and I appreciate it. And I had retailers come up and be like, "I could not sell your fucking book. Like I couldn't do it. Like I tried,
Yeah,
and no one
no,
wanted it."
the,
And
the
I
the
appreciate that.
brutal honesty of a comics retailer on either end
Yes,
of that spectrum is always so much fun to
it
hear.
it really is, and they're great. And I think no one, there's very few businesses where you're like, where you can say no one is in this business because they want to be rich and famous. But I don't think anyone owns a comic shop to be rich and famous. They own it because they care about the medium. And in that regard, like, I used to go to my local shop here, and like some of the staff would always be like kind of weird around me because they'd be like, "Well, you write X-Men, or you write the Punisher, or you're doing Detective Comic stuff," and I finally had to say to like one of them, I was just like, I'm literally a bad month away from applying for a job here. Like, we're not different. And you're a good month away from writing X-Men. So like, we need to stop acting like this isn't all just like it's comics. It's not, there's no Tom Cruise and the guy who sells popcorn. It's like we're all a step away from each other. It's the same ecosystem. Just like everyone be cool, everyone be nice to each other. It's not that complicated.